we are with a complex issue called cash credit system that commercial banks in India use to lend money to a company, for instance. This is different from a loan. Loans are like demand deposit accounts deposits or time deposit account deposits. Our money comes, accrues an interest, and I withdraw whenever I want. Loan also, when a demand loan or a term loan is given to a company, the money is given to him in an account, and it's up to the company to withdraw and use whenever they want. The interest is used on that, applicable right from day one. Okay? Now, the point is, in a cash credit system, you have a different kind of system. There, a whole lot of evaluation goes on first, which also goes on in case of a loan, but they have a system called cash reserve system. How does it work? Every individual borrower would have to submit an application with all kinds of financial statements and sureties or mortgages, etc. Collateral jisko kehte hain. Now, under the cash reserve system, every borrower is given a credit limit towards a loan, sanctioned loan. When a loan is sanctioned, say 20 crores, a credit limit is given where this is the amount of money that will be credited in its account towards that loan. So, say the credit limit system for a particular company A, when a 20 crore loan has been sanctioned, say 10 lakhs every month will be deposited, not 20 crores, denge nahi, 10 lakhs. This is where the credit multiplier works also. And now, the question is, once the limit is set and the money is now put by the bank in my account, and suppose I am the company borrowing, how much of that limit also I can use or I would use would matter. I am coming to that point later. First of all, how is that limit set? First, initially a loan is sanctioned on the basis of the current financial status, the value of the mortgage it is given, the security or collateral, loan is sanctioned. After the loan has been sanctioned, again an evaluation process going on, what would be the credit limit? छुट्टी नहीं हुआ मेरा, तो हमको 20 करोड़ लोन सैंक्शन कर दिया, लेकिन 20 को दे नहीं रहा, 2 लाख 3 लाख एक महीने में देंगे. ये credit limit, how is it judged? It is judged on the basis of something they called credit worthiness of me, as a borrower. The credit worthiness is judged depending upon my financial statements, etc., and how I have behaved with the bank in terms of repaying loans in the past when I have taken loans, etc. This whole entire thing will be given. And then the credit limit is sanctioned. Now, the party borrower is withdrawing money. Now, how much money or credit requirement that will be there in the credit limit requires some sort of a valuation of the valuables that a company has. Here, it is just not the collateral, it comes to something called current assets of the company. Presently, the company, how much inventory is there? Out of that inventory, how much is in raw material form? How much is in semi-finished goods form? How much is in finished goods form? This is called current assets. They take a stock of the current assets, which reflects the current level of economic activity of the company. That will help the bank to judge how much money it will require, and after having received the money under credit limit from that loan, it will be in a position also to repay back, because current assets judge the level of well-being of the company, all right. Like I am trying to judge the health of an individual. So, currently what kind of food habit he has, what are the pathological parameters like blood pressure, sugar, etc. Later, a judgment kiya, okay, this is the amount of work he would be able to do, and also the past matters, what he has done as a history. So, the credit limit is decided again by a line of action which requires some sort of a mortgage or surety, they call surety, is like I am taking a stock of the valuables it has and also a stock of the current level or success or failure of its achievements. I look at the current assets, which reflects the current sales also, how much raw material stock is there, how much semi-finished goods there, how much finished goods there. So, how much credit he requires for the purpose it has, and not only requires, how much he would be able to repay, because withdrawing money towards a loan often coincides nearly with also repaying it. Like I take a loan from the bank as a consumer loan towards buying a car, the loan gets sanctioned. First of all, they will give me maybe 90% or 80% of the purchase price of the car. They will not give the entire amount of money. This is their general policy. 10% or 20% will have to come out from my pocket. So, suppose they have given 90% towards the price of the car, 10% I am paying from me. You won't believe me, next month EMI starts. They starts asking for repayment. Repayment schedule does not wait 6 months for me to get into a financial position, then I repay. Loans are often immediately accompanied by repayments. So, current assets become very important, and you know what they do with all kinds of mortgages or securities they ask for. They never take the value of that entire market value of that entire asset to determine the loan amount. They always have a margin requirement, 20%, 30% of the value they would deduct, and then they will look at the 70% of that value and then say, okay, out of 70%, it's okay to give him loan worth nearly say 50 or 60%. Again a margin kuch rakh dete hai. Very cautious in lending, usually they are. Suppose you mortgage a property, a land, to get a loan for your small business unit. They will take the current market price, they will not sanction that loan as a value equal to the loan value. They will take a margin requirement, they will chop off a value, 30%, 20%, depending upon which industry you are in, which kind of business you are in. And then the remaining value would help them to decide the loan amount. Similarly, in current assets, when they take the value of the current assets and decide the credit limit of a borrower, which is a loan after has been sanctioned. After the loan has been sanctioned, now how much money of the loan I can receive, again they have margin requirements on current assets. Do you understand what I am saying? So, these are technical details, a few of them, what I have learned. And also they get into marginal requirement, you won't believe me, current assets also have just not only inventories, they also look into how much bill is pending that the company would receive as payment. How much bill the company will have to pay which it did not pay. So, they look into the books very thoroughly, these are called books of a company, balance sheets, etc. So, they look into that, how much money it expects in the coming few months that for the goods, because often goods are sold on a credit system, you know. Commercial bills, the payments have not come, they will come future. Similarly, a company may also have commercial bills where it is a debtor, it will have to pay, not receive. So, they look into all these things. These margin requirements etc., they have for current assets when they decide the credit limit, that means how much money I can get from the bank every month or every 2 months. These are called, in technical words, in technical language, this is called primary security. The language is probably called, this is the term that is used, primary security. Current assets का जो valuation का बात कर रहे थे. They vary from time to time. You know how much primary security value would vary? It's a very variable, it's not a fixed, like a land. Current assets consists of raw materials, finished products, semi-finished products, receivables, payments, which will be deducted. So, how can I say it's a constant amount? It will change. So, the bank has to be very vigilant. Every month it requires therefore a feedback on current assets, and it can revise the credit limit accordingly. बहुत झंझट का काम है. Every month, it's a flow variable, current assets. So, it will change its value, its value will change every period, every unit, the unit can be weak even. Suppose they take a monthly stock of it. Therefore, companies, borrowers, what they do is that I have a note here, roughly 75% of the current assets they offer primary security, banks allow them to be used as credit limit, roughly 75% of the primary security. Normal practice I am talking about, Indian banks. Therefore, a borrower is required to submit a stock statement of these assets every month to the bank. उधर में झूठा भी बता सकते हैं. So the bank's headache now becomes, after having received the stock statement of current assets, to visit the company and verify. Now इधर में जो 2 नंबरी होते हैं, झूठा बताया है कंपनी, current stocks है, to raise the credit limit. अच्छा, वो डाउन हो गया. बैंक से जो गए हैं उनको कुछ एक्स्ट्रा पेमेंट कर दिया, भाई यही लो, घट जाओ ना, बताओ करंट एसेट्स जो बताए सर फॉर्म में वही है मेरा करंट एसेट. these are the loopholes in a system which creates the avenues for corruption, etc., and inefficiency. So everybody, if they do their work properly, there won't be any corruption. Basically, people don't do their work for various reasons. One is lethargy, one is all kind of political influences, etc. So by law, they are supposed to submit stock returns, stock of current assets, but in practice, they are not practiced. This is exactly what happens. This evidence on the ongoing production and trading activities becomes a legal document, and therefore bank asks for this kind of a thing, current assets. Sometimes if the current assets are down, then bank may ask for a second surety, that means a statement of funds, etc. Depends what kind of investments it has made elsewhere, and all kind of second surety to continue with that loan. It can terminate that loan also. Suppose current assets values are down, so credit limit would be down. Then the bank will go ask, okay, your current assets are down, what else can you show us to keep your credit limit here, otherwise we will pull it down. So that's called second surety it may come for, it may ask for. Now the funny thing is that there is a loan system which banks give loans, but this is also we usually call loans, but this is not loan, this is called cash credit system. And cash credit system and loans, there are differences which will now become more clear to you. And if you will see that a very interesting thing arise here, that is banks prefer loans, because loan दे दिया, sanction कर दिया, वो आपका जमींदारी है, उसको कितना खर्चा करेंगे, आपके अकाउंट में मैं डाल दिया रुपया, और इंटरेस्ट डे 1 से काउंटेड होना शुरू हो गया, जब से लोन दिया है इंटरेस्ट भी काउंटेड शुरू हो गया, आपका ईएमआई ये है. कैश क्रेडिट सिस्टम में क्या होता है, इतना एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव वर्क करना पड़ता है. एक बार लोन सैंक्शन हुआ, शांति नहीं मिला, उसके बाद करंट एसेट का वैल्यूएशन लो, क्रेडिट लिमिट ठीक करो, क्रेडिट लिमिट को भी रिवाइज करो एवरी मंथ ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ स्टॉक स्टेटमेंट्स ऑफ करंट एसेट्स, एंड देयर आर रूम्स फॉर ऑल सॉर्ट्स ऑफ मैनिपुलेशंस एक्सेट्रा, करप्शन, इनएफिशिएंसी. And the interest that is charged is not on the loan sanctioned. Interest is charged how much of that credit limit the borrower actually utilizes. बहुत झंझट है तो. Credit limit 2 लाख का पर महीने दिखाए है. Now, borrower is very happy, 2 महीने में 2 लाख पर महीने credit limit है, withdraw कर सकूंगा. लेकिन interest लगेगा जितना मैं withdraw करूँ, तो borrower क्या करेंगे? Withdraw नहीं करेंगे. और बैंक को हर टाइम कैलकुलेट करना पड़ेगा, अच्छा ईच महीने में वो कंपनी क्रेडिट लिमिट कितना था, कितना विथड्रॉ किया, विथड्रॉन अमाउंट के ऊपर इंटरेस्ट लगेगा. नॉट द लोन अमाउंट, नॉट इवन ऑन द क्रेडिट अमाउंट, क्रेडिट लिमिट अमाउंट, इट्स ऑन द अमाउंट एक्चुअली यूटिलाइज्ड बाय द बोरोवर फ्रॉम दैट क्रेडिट लिमिट. horrendous, huge amount of extra work bank officials have to do. So banks never like cash credit system, but it has remained a practice in India. Borrowers always love that system because they can then bypass interest payments on the entire loan. It depends upon how much money they use actually from that loan. All right. So there goes a conflict situation. Now let me compare the two. Many people don't know about cash credit system. Everybody thinks banks give loans, just not loans. There are all sorts of things. Now, I am going to come to the last 2 pages before I go over to cooperative banks. This will be my task for about 15-20 minutes. Let us see whether you understand this stuff. And do not escape from this room. Dr. Shah will evaluate my course, then you can escape and write whatever you want. And then when she goes out, I will evaluate her course. Then she will start teaching today. 2 evaluations will take place between my lecture and her lecture. Environmental economics का evaluation होगा, ठीक है? So the other students can go after my course evaluation if you are not in Dr. Shaurani Shah's course. All right. Now, there are a number of reasons why borrowers prefer cash credit over alternative forms of borrowing from banks. Why borrowers prefer? A, interest is payable on the amount withdrawn and not on the limit sanctioned by the bank. I just told you. I will pass on these notes to you. Interest is paid on the amount withdrawn. बैंक के कितना रुपया है उसके ऊपर इंटरेस्ट नहीं लगेगा, जितना विड्रॉ किया उतने ऊपर. Security can vary with the amount withdrawn. Current asset security, primary security, etc. ठीक है, even if I show less, it doesn't matter. The credit limit they would reduce. It doesn't matter to me. Suppose I am in a situation. ठीक है, interest भी तो कम देना पड़ेगा. Then, borrowing account can be continuously renewed, although it is a short term advance repayable on demand. Borrowing account can be continuously renewed. I can always negotiate with the bank to increase my credit limit depending upon current assets values or lower it. So, I have a flexibility there, all right. Okay. So, borrower loves a cash credit system as a company to take money from a bank. However, banks do not necessarily like cash credit system of lending for a number of reasons, just the opposite reasons. Banks have no control over the actual utilization of cash credit limits because the borrower would use it. So, banks have no control. So, it will have to wait and see how much they are using, and then they put the interest costs, whereas money has been already credited to its account. Since the borrower can deposit their day-to-day surplus cash and reduce the outstanding amount of credit withdrawn and also save on the interest costs, the task of cash management is effectively passed on to the banks by the borrowers. Very interesting point. एक account मेरे नाम में खोल दिया, लोन दे दिया, लोन से एक क्रेडिट लिमिट खड़ा कर दिया 2 लाख रुपया पर महीने, और ये चालू कंपनी ये विथड्रॉ भी कर रहा है, डिपॉजिट भी कर रहा है उधर में. तो बैंक का हेडेक हो गया, not by looking at the balance amount, how much actually have been deposited also they have to take into account. Because if they have withdrawn and immediately they have deposited, in some sense when you deposit the money, the person who deposits will get the interest, not pay interest. If you withdraw money as a loan from the bank, you have to pay interest. But sir, they will come and say, we withdrew in the morning, but in the afternoon we withdrew 1 lakh, by the afternoon we deposited 50,000. Money आ गया कंपनी का कोई जाएगा से डिपॉजिट भी कर दिया. So effectively we withdrew 50,000 only. This whole management, hisab nikas, the bank will have to do, because depending upon how much I withdraw cash, the interest will be charged. इन लोग बहुत चालू है 2 दिन के लिए, and usual practice is at the end of the month the cash balance is taken. Now usual practice is, if you have a savings account or any account, the savings account in particular, these are demand accounts where these transactions take place. These are not fixed deposit accounts. I cannot withdraw money from fixed deposit accounts. Banks create savings accounts, current accounts for your loan, which you can use for your company. Now usually the balance amount is counted at the end of the month when the interest is charged. Now throughout the month मैं इतना हूँ, मैं कभी withdraw कर रहा हूँ, कभी withdraw कर रहा हूँ, कभी deposit कर रहा हूँ, कभी deposit, मेरा काम चलते रहे, end of the month कुछ balance उन लोग देख लिया. That's the net after all the withdrawals and all the deposits. And suppose the net is not different from the last period's net, but actually I have used the loans, the interest is 0 in terms of incremental interest. No interest has been paid. Do you understand? And all this counting, accounting, banks they pass the buck to the banks, count karo na. And banks don't have energy to count every day. What they do at the end of the month, they look at the account balance and they put an interest. So, in a savings account balance, suppose I have 20,000 in the beginning, end of the month I have only 2,000, the interest that will be given to me on my account, deposit savings account by the bank, is on the 2,000 rupees. What I had in the beginning is not, where the interest is charged. They don't do everyday calculation of interest within the month. They take the month end balance in my account and put the interest. Similarly, for a borrower, a loan taker, month end balance देख के interest जारी करते हैं, इतना interest होगा. वो चालू क्या किया, शुरू से बहुत व्यवहार किया, उसके बाद डिपॉजिट भी कर दिया. मंथ एंड में दिखा दिया वही अमाउंट है मेरा. Effectively no incremental interest. जो इंटरेस्ट लास्ट में दिया था वही दे रहा हूं. But effectively what I've done, I've used bank money in my business. But since I've deposited also, I'm not paying any extra interest. Okay. So this creates havoc. A bank's work increases multifold to keep track of this. And another thing is, you understand, bank is a profit maximizing institution. If it accepts deposits, it will pay interest. But if it gives a loan, it will ask for interest, charge interest. Now, if bank knows that there is surplus cash coming into an account where I have actually given a loan, and if it doesn't keep track of it, effectively it doesn't utilize that surplus cash to earn something by investing somewhere, call market or jo bhi ho. Because it was a loan account, but money got deposited also. In any account money can be deposited. A loan account or whatever is called a savings account. एक नंबर है जैसे आपका अकाउंट है उधर, जो बिजनेस नहीं करते हैं, जो खाली अपना रुपया जमा करते हैं and withdraw करते हैं. So suppose extra cash got deposited, I'm just saying my withdrawal last month was 2 lakhs. This month is no withdrawal, and on top of that 50,000 more I've deposited. So effectively I have to pay less interest now. So bank from bank's point of view, it is a loss of income, because if it has received more money than giving out loan, it should utilize that money to make money by putting it elsewhere, giving it a loan to somebody else, investing it, giving it the money in the call market. So effectively banks also lose money, this kind of a system. All right. And of course, there are problems that sometimes this uncertainty which always exists in the real world, economic world, is that a limit has been sanctioned and I as a bank got used to these 10 borrowers, how they utilize their cash limits, credit limits. I get used to this. So I know how much money they typically require in their businesses. Suddenly something went wrong and the majority of you started using more money from that cash credit system. Suppose from that account you started using more, then that can create a problem with the remaining cash that I have, because I wasn't expecting that to happen. This kind of uncertainty is always there. If I don't go and do my business on the basis of the actual limit values, but I look at your habits where you are using less of that limit money, and this has been habit, but suddenly you changed, something happened in the economy, then there can be a problem with managing my own cash, because I wasn't expecting that to happen. So a cautious thing would be, but which human beings are not, if they see that the rain starts here in the month of July, mid-July, they get used to that because that has been happening. So they plan accordingly what they would do in June early or July first week. But if suddenly it starts raining heavily in July first week, then they will have to deal with that as an unexpected problem. So if the credit limits are utilized suddenly too much, which usually companies don't do, then the banks have a problem in managing their cash too, because they always create a credit multiplier from a base money. The deposit money comes in and then they promise a loan amount, sanction loan, which is a multiplier of the base amount, which can be huge. And then they slowly release this base cash towards these various credit limits and sanction loans. Now, if there is extra withdrawing going on, it can create problem for other activities like normal withdrawal of cash. So, what they do with a good banking system, they would go to the central bank, withdraw cash, etc. But that can happen. All right. Next point, a few more points I want just want to mention. I would just read out a few things. Once the credit limits have been set, primary securities have been accepted, current account values, current assets values, current account, current assets values have been accepted. Banks have no control on the end uses of these credits. This is very unfortunate. After you have sanctioned the limit and the current assets values have been taken into account, all that you have done, now what actually the borrower would do with the money, you have no control on it. Ex post, you may check what they have done. Sometimes that is also very difficult to find out, because the company is dealing with cash all the time. So, how much money actually bank's money have gone into something, how would they know? बैंक का money का cash तो अलग का नहीं होता है, एक ही तो cash है, Indian currency. So, they do not have actual control on the end use. This is where another problem and NPA arise, because they borrow money for some purpose, they use it for some other purpose. And often what they do, they are so smart, they use it in the share market to make some quick gain, though the loan was for manufacturing. Or they look money to hoard, there where selective credit controls become very important. They show you that they want to expand their plant size, they would get a loan from you, but actually they use that cash not to expand the plant size. Okay? They are doing something else with it. Otherwise, Harshad Mehta case, why, how will it alive? Harshad Mehta couldn't have taken money from a bank saying, I am going to put that money in the stock market. He took the money from the bank and the bank managers colluded because he showed something else for which he needed the money. Bank will never give you money to speculate in the stock market, because it's public money bank has. How can it give it to you? Bank itself cannot invest in the stock market, even if they want. They can open a mutual fund company, a subsidiary, separate business, which banks do in India, commercial banks. How would Harshad Mehta case would have come in the early 90s? He lied to the banks, and the bank managers knew about it, didn't do anything. So, they do not have an end use control, that is what I am saying. This cash credits accounts become a permanent source of finances to the borrowers. Often borrowers use this finance to speculate in the stock market or to acquire assets of another company or in a new company. Bhagwan jane kya karte hai. Since bank cannot have a foolproof system of evaluation, inspection and supervision of primary securities without obstructing the day-to-day running of businesses of its clients and its own increasing costs of loan making supervision, a dishonest borrower can always swindle a bank. A dishonest borrower can easily swindle a bank. Banks do not have the energy, money, expertise to control everything. It can check out some superficial data, financial statement, current assets, past experience with this customer. Sometimes they get a warning, they ignore it. Fellow bankers warn, be careful about that borrower, they ignore it for whatever reason it may be. It is not easy, not difficult at all to cheat a bank, particularly with a cash credit system. You do not know what money you are doing, what you are doing. In a loan case of a thing, buying a property or house is one time purchase. You can always go and check, and that property is often the collateral. Much easier. गाड़ी आ रही, गाड़ी तो मैं थे उधर, साइन किया, वो पेमेंट मेरे पास से गाड़ी कंपनी को जाएगा, तो गाड़ी तो actually they bought, so I know it has been bought. You are using the car, but the money I as a bank is paying, and you are paying me EMI for 10 years or something. Much easier. In case of cascade system in a company, what the company actually does with the money, nobody knows. Very difficult. Banks in India tend to favor big and established borrowers. Why? Because they have this misnomer, this feeling, this false confidence that if there is Reliance borrowing from me or some company X is borrowing for me, there cannot be any default. Kingfisher तो देखा है हाल में, कितना thousands of crores अटक गया बैंक का. जरूर एक बैंक नहीं, कंसोर्शियम फंडिंग होता है ये सब, 3-4 बैंक एक साथ कर रहे हैं. So I leave out the small and new borrowers who lose out also in the business. Because you know, as a bank, let's give the loan to an established company. Why? Because there is so much return that will come. Who knew Kingfisher won't function properly? Who knew that? You tell me 5 years back who knew that Kingfisher would have problem? Nobody in India. Because Vijay Mallya's other business does so well, and Kingfisher had such a good reputation of the service quality, that's where he actually got fooled. He spent too much. He didn't pay attention to the costs and vis-a-vis revenue, whatever he was earning. That's where he got actually cheated or fooled, and the company is not doing well, running at a loss. In addition to environmental factors, global factors. वो छोड़ दीजिए, वो तो हर को affect कर रहा है. Everybody is getting affected. I mean, jet getting affected, other airlines in India getting affected. Now, next, another very interesting point. With multiple banking facility, you can go to many banks. Firms can borrow, over borrow and misuse the facility. And when you have a practice of consortium banking for large companies are very easy to, large companies are, you are always susceptible to large companies for cheating. And when you look at the non-PA, NPA, the bulk of the NPA in India, if you look at the data, I wish I don't have that. I wish I had the clipping with me. I don't have it with me, newspaper clipping. The biggest defaulter, the largest defaulter in India to banks who created the maximum amount of NPA are not small companies, whom you usually don't have confidence, are the large companies. What a catch-22 situation. Banks think it's safe to invest in a big company. They also have consortium funding, so everybody trusts them. The 3-4 banks go ahead to make business with Kingfisher. Kingfisher fails them and it becomes the largest NPA creator. What a catch-22 situation. Look at this. And with cash credit system, etc., it becomes much more difficult. All right. So, cash credit system makes it difficult banks to adjust the credit limits overnight. And RBI often used to have restrictive policies. It becomes more. It's hell in bank working in a commercial bank. I tell you, it's hell in commercial bank. So much work. Usually, I've seen banks operate more number of extra hours than a normal company, unless they have a manufacturing unit which does a 24-hour shift. It does sometimes. Car, automobile plant, assembly plants, etc., sometimes don't shut down, like thermal power plants. They cannot shut down. They run 24, except the workforce changes shift. But I have seen, other than that, only place where lights are on at night are banks. They have just so much extra work to do. RBI कुछ पॉलिसी अनाउंस कर दिया, इतना कैश, इतना सिलेक्टिव कंट्रोल चलेगा, हो गया, सब लिमिट्स रिवाइज, and there will be lakhs of borrowers, and to revise the credit limit of all these borrowers, overnight it cannot be done. It's literally manual work. Maybe computerized information system you have, but you have to sit in front of the terminal, get the printouts, check one by one. Huge amount of work. That's why banks never like cash credit system. RBI never withdrew cash credit system, and banks always like loan systems, but borrowers love it. So the story goes, the same story continues year after year. Finally, a small point, but I won't come to this, then I will come tomorrow and talk about cooperative banks, which are absolutely, completely different kind of business, completely different concepts, not commercial banks. So, I need to talk about cooperative banks. We never knew probably. Cash credit system probably never knew. Loans you heard banks give. So, I will talk about cooperative banks which you never heard probably. So, I need to tell you about them. And you know, like an individual account holder here, SBI, companies also have overdraft facilities. Government has overdraft facilities. Government doesn't have money in RBI account or elsewhere, wherever it is allowed to open an account, it can utilize overdraft facility. You know overdraft? You know overdraft, right? Okay. When you don't have the minimum balance, bank lends you temporarily. Okay. So, let me complete this. She has forgotten to bring the papers, whatever it is. So, she will do this evaluation tomorrow, no problem. I will do. Do you know if there are any students outside economics students in your course? in the environmental economics course? Nobody? Okay, I will do yours. So, time is nearly up. Overdraft facility, I guess you know. So, companies also get overdraft facilities, but it depends upon the trust of the borrower. If you trust the borrower, you are doing business with it for a long time, it will do that. Okay. Okay, so this bank activities I told you, but in the slide I do not have, in the loan credit cash credit system you had also the bills. Another type of advances banks give are the commercial bills, discounted and purchased, which you studied in the previous topic. Banks get involved with lending money in another kind of business. One is loan, one is cash credit system, the other one, the slide is not here today, the other one is bills purchased and discounted. You know that, commercial bills. I explained that last topic. You have a very dead look on your face. Do you remember the commercial bills I talked about in the previous topic? Commercial banks get involved in purchasing bills and discounting bills. I showed you data. So, this is the third kind of activity where banks lend money, by purchasing a bill or by discounting a bill. I talked about that in the previous topic. So, that closes commercial bank activities. So, all that I have to do tomorrow is to talk about the last section, which is very interesting, very different, cooperative banks.